Let's walk through a potential career planning scenario so you can see how it might play out. Let's say that you've been working as a customer service representative at a call center for 3.5 years and you really want to do something different. An interest profiler identifies strong social interests. You're patient and helpful and a good communicator. You like to work as a member of a team and help solve problems or serve the community. The skill matcher identifies clerical skills, administrative and management, and helping people. You have identified that you need to make no less than $40,000 a year, or about $20 an hour, just to make ends meet. And you would certainly like to make closer to 45 to 50,000 a year. You're not interested in more than a couple of years of college max, and although you're willing to move, you're not willing to leave Montana. An initial look at the occupational reports shows a few jobs that you're interested in, including HR assistant, administrative assistant, paralegal, and an eligibility interviewer for government programs. These jobs all seem to pay enough, and the training requirement seems spot on. Keep in mind, these statistics are from Career One Stop and are national statistics. Montana wages and outlook are often different. Time to put in the effort and gather the data that you need to make those tough career decisions. This is where that labor market information will come in handy. Armed with a short list of potential occupations, make a list of the information that you need to make an educated decision. We'll need to know the average wage for these occupations in Montana, if there are training options available in Montana, and job projections. Will there be jobs available in a few years in these fields? Time to find the information. And remember, we have the LMI data locator tool that we can use. And I'll show you how to use it. The tool asks us to narrow our search results. Remember those 3 buckets? Let's start there. This slide outlines what type of information you'll find in each category. This information is also available as a little cheat sheet on the actual tool itself. Although average wage is listed in both the industrial and the occupational sections, wage offered in the industrial realm will be the average of the entire industry. So if we look up human resources under administration industry, we're going to get the average of all the jobs in that industry, not just HR assistants. So what we want is the average wage from the occupational section. Notice training information and job projection are also both in the occupational section. We can look through other sections to see if there's anything that might be helpful to us at the moment. If we find a training or job opportunity in a different city, we might want to revisit LMI to find information about the city to help us decide if it might be worth it to move. Let's use the tool to find the average wage, trainings needed, and job projection information for these 4 jobs. We'll start by choosing occupational in the category section, and then average wage will obviously be found in the wage section under data type. So we'll click to choose that option as well. Then we'll click the View Results button to see information for each of the sites listed. Viewing the report, you can see that we'll want to look for options that offer local or at least state data, not just national. If you prefer to work and live in a particular city in Montana, it might benefit us to look at options that offer local data, not just state. As you can see, that leaves us with 5 options. Feel free to choose whichever option you prefer. Each site offers statistics from the same source, so it comes down to how you prefer to view the information. Let's go with Career One Stop because they have a compare salary tool that lets us compare salaries of up to 5 occupations or locations at one time. After you enter the occupations you want to choose to compare and click the search button, Career One Stop provides a side-by-side comparison of each. We'll choose to view data in your current city, Great Falls. The initial comparison for the Great Falls area shows no data available for human resource and eligibility interviewers. Now, that just means that in Great Falls, there weren't enough businesses that provided information to the Research and Analysis Bureau for them to be able to provide a statistic in a way that was anonymous. We can see Montana results for all four. We had identified that the lowest workable salary would be $40,000, which both the HR assistant and the eligibility interviewer average a little bit less. If we hope to have room for growth at all, these jobs are probably not the best options. Having narrowed our search results now, those options down to just two, the paralegals and executive secretaries, we can go back and look for LMI to provide us training options, and let's look at the outlook for both jobs as well. Both job projection, the outlooks, and training requirements are career planning data resources. So we'll choose occupational in the category section and career planning in the data type, and then click view results. The report offers a lot of results. You can look at the description column to get a better idea of the information offered on that site. Again, the data tends to be similar, if not the same, regardless of the site that you choose. Let's view the information on Career Information Systems, we also call that MCIS, to look at the outlook in Montana and Career One Stop to explore training options. Once you log into MCIS, you can hover over occupations and choose Compare Occupations. On MCIS, careers are listed alphabetically. Choose both careers by clicking the links on the right and then click Compare button. We can compare an overview, wages, outlook, licensing requirements, education and training needs, that's the preparation section, and even work activities and conditions. Looking at the Outlook section, we can see that there's a much brighter outlook for paralegals. Labor market information is used to track current recent jobs in a field, and then research analysis project anticipated changes in the field to come up with these job projections. You can see the average for all occupations in Montana is 6.8%. Paralegals are expected to be almost twice that in the next decade. Although we already looked at wages in Career One Stop, if we visit the wage section, we can see wages across different regions in Montana. This is interesting if we're considering a move. This type of information might be helpful for us to decide on a career choice. If a person wanted to stay in Great Falls, they would be better off pursuing the executive secretary job. However, the outlook is not as bright. You can see that a paralegal in Billings makes almost $9 an hour more than they would in Great Falls. You can see either occupation lists a high school diploma as a requirement. Paralegals can receive training through a college or a university. Executive secretaries may be able to get away with a job with just 1 to 5 years of related work experience. However, many do have an associate's degree, so competition will be tough without that training. Next, we'll go to Career One Stop and then to the Find Training section at the top to look up training options for each occupation. It finds over 300 trainings meeting the criteria of office administration. There's a program in Helena, Butte, Billings, and Missoula, to name a few. There are only 3 options for paralegal trainings: Great Falls, Missoula, and Poplar. Time to put all that powerful data to use and start making some decisions. A person could complete a 2-year program in Great Falls to be a paralegal, but would make less than our base salary if they decide to stay in Great Falls to work as a paralegal. They could look into moving to Missoula or Poplar to complete the training as well. You could go to school to get an associate's degree in office administration, but would have to move to do that. Realizing that it's really only 2 years and might be worth it in the end, let's consider the income further. On average, an executive secretary makes $3.78 an hour more than a paralegal in Montana. That's $7,862 a year. Over a decade, the executive secretary will make $78,000 more than a paralegal. There are programs in several cities. So let's say that you have friends in both Missoula and Billings, so you would prefer to live in one of those cities. Would it be worth it? Well, let's use LMI to look up location data to help us decide. Using the LMI Locator tool again, we can select the location category and then career planning data and click View Results. Looking at the data source options, although there is an assessment on MCIS that can help a person factor in different costs involved, the relocation information on moving.com will yield a lot of great information. Using moving.com, we can look up Missoula and Billings side by side. We find that the average household income in Missoula is $55,851, more than the average executive secretary makes. In Billings, the average income is $65,188. A simple Google search tells us that the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Missoula is maybe even a little bit more than $2,000 a month right now. The vast majority of people rent in Missoula. The average rent for a one-bedroom in Billings is $1,200, but most people own their own homes. The travel time tends to be a little bit more in Billings than Missoula, but not too much. Now, let's dive deeper and compare scenarios to see if we need any other information to start solidifying a plan. In the first scenario, you decide an executive secretary job is the right occupation. You could certainly try to apply for jobs in your current city, Great Falls, as training will help you to get the job but might not be required. You look up open positions in Great Falls, and we find two. One for Touro College, and it lists a bachelor's degree and 5 years experience as requirements. The other, working for the state of Montana, lists just a high school diploma and 2 years of job-related work experience. Well, that would be worth a shot. If that didn't pan out, you could move to Missoula and complete a 2-year administrative assistant program and then start applying for jobs. Well, that would cost you approximately $48,000 in rent alone, plus the cost of schooling. Rent in Missoula is around $1,000 more a month than your current rent in Great Falls. In the second scenario, you decide to pursue a paralegal occupation. You could stay in Great Falls while you work on that degree. You could look at moving to a different city to get a job as a paralegal, as the average wage is so much higher somewhere like Billings. Everyone says it's super expensive to go to the University of Providence in Great Falls, so that might be a factor as well. Even if you get a paralegal job in Billings right away, paying the average of $25.20 an hour, that's still only $52,416 a year, well under the average annual wage in Billings of $65,000. Financial experts warn not to spend more than a third of your income on housing, and that would be $1,400, which is slightly above the average rent in Billings of $1,200. When we look at the big picture, we also have to consider your interests and your values. An executive secretary would work closely with management and big corporations. A paralegal will be working with lawyers and frequenting courtrooms and such. So which would you prefer to do long term? If staying in your hometown is important, you might prefer the executive secretary job. If you welcome a change, you might like the idea of moving to Billings and looking for paralegal work. A quick job search shows 3 legal assistant jobs available in Billings right now. Next steps will include applying for FAFSA and looking further into different college choices. If you decide to stay in Great Falls and attend the University of Providence for paralegal program, you might look for a receptionist or a filing clerk in the legal world right now. If you decide on the executive secretary job, you might look into temporary clerical work until the next semester begins and start saving money for the upcoming move. Using LMI, we can walk through every step of the process to bring concrete data to our fingertips and help us make those tough career decisions, going from confused to confident.